What's up, nerds? Nerd Piece here.
What is the nerd, everyone? So today we're going to be talking about One Piece episode 886 and 887. So starting with 886, we start off with Stelly, and he's walking into this large throne room, and he sees like this huge throne, and it's empty, and there's like a bunch of swords sitting around, and immediately Stelly being Stelly, and from what we've seen, he wants to sit on it. So apparently the empty throne symbolizes a pledge that the royals 800 years ago took, that everyone is equal and that no country desires a dictatorship, except of course for the celestial dragons. So they talk about the first 20 swords are actually from the first kingdoms that kind of laid the foundation for the world government, and the empty seat is supposed to represent peace. And we find out, but most of us have known, that the 5 elders are actually the 5 most high-ranking celestial dragons, but even they like divide the power. And so Stelly is just like drooling, and he's told to also make a pledge by placing a sword up there. And of course, you know, he wants to sit on the throne because he thinks it'll make him king of the world and whatnot. But you know, I think that there is a reason why they're showing us Stelly so much. I mean, from the beginning of the Reverie, Stelly has had a lot of airtime, and like we've gotten to see a lot of his personality being displayed during the episodes that have been having things to do with the Reverie. So I'm thinking that there's an important reason for that. I think that Stelly might actually end up having something to do with that throne and the celestial dragons, not out of him, not because he's like anything special, but I think after like the attack is happening by Dragon, somehow Stelly is going to weasel his way into a seat of power, and then we're going to see an interesting thing between him and Sabo. I mean, that's just a prediction, but I'm only thinking that Stelly has significance because when One Piece shows like a character and they give them this amount of airtime, it's not for nothing. There's always a reason. So Stelly is going to be set up for something. I'm sure he's going to have an important role during the Reverie as this war is unfolding, or after. So after that, we get a transition into Sharlos, the sort of doofy celestial dragon, and he is trying to capture Shirahoshi. And then so we see like everybody, like all the kings and everybody, even King Neptune, they're just sitting and watching, and they're like, you know, staring in fear, like, oh man, I can't believe this is really happening. And then Rebecca, she's like, hey, you know, stop that, get your hands off of her. And then Donsai grabs her and he's like, if you make them mad, they'll destroy your kingdom. And this just kind of shows us like the dread and like the juice, the power that the celestial dragons have. They have so much fear over like the people of the world. Like they can literally do something like this in front of all of these people and nobody will do nothing. So Leo can't take it anymore, and he just jumps in and he's going to attack, and Donsai's kind of like, no, don't do it. And then he's like, ah crap, well I guess here we go. And then they're both stopped pretty quickly by Lucci, who is now a member of CP0. And then we see Stussy, Kaku, and some tall guy, and they just kind of remind everyone that if you mess up or mess with the celestial dragons, like you're gonna get like some fire brought down on you. And then Vivi goes up and she like grabs Lucci by the collar, and she's like, you let her go. And then King Neptune, like, he stops her and he's like, wait, Princess Vivi, you've been nice, stand back. I'm gonna pound these guys out, and I'm gonna go back to my kingdom. If this is how people really are up here, then we want nothing to do with it. And then they're all like, no, King Neptune, this isn't how all people are. And then he's about to punch Sharlos, and then all of a sudden, like, some Babe Ruth celestial dragon just comes through and like home runs the crap out of Charlos's stupid looking face. And he's like, oh my God, when he gets hit. And we find out that it's Mosgard, the celestial dragon that actually went to Fishman Island trying to find the people that he was, you know, holding captive. And we already know like what happened between him and Queen Otohime. So apparently the time that Queen Otohime spent with him made him find a bit of humanity, and now he's feels kind of indebted to the people of Fishman Island. So he apologizes to everybody at the gathering for Charlos's behavior, and he's just pretty much telling King Neptune how he's been waiting to see him and like how he'll do anything for him. And it's a really interesting turn of events, and it kind of just shows like how strong Queen Otohime's desire was, to the fact that she could change a celestial dragon like him, because he was like a real bad dude. He's almost as bad as how Charlos is now. So it just kind of goes to show us that like, even though the celestial dragons are like buttholes, like if they meet the right person that has like the right set of ideals, like they can be impacted and they can change. And it kind of makes you wonder, like at the Reverie, we know like there is a lot of people here that are trying to bring changes, from Fujitora to the King of Alabasta to the people from Fishman Island. Like there's a lot of stuff going on at the Reverie, and the fact that we are seeing like Mosgard, who was a really like snobby bad celestial dragon, change, that shows us like, well, what about the rest of them? If this guy can, as bad as he was, then who's to say that the rest can? And he's not the first one to show a bit of humanity. Doflamingo's father was actually the first one, and interestingly enough, they're both a part of like the same family, the Don Quixotes. So we're just kind of left wondering like, what will happen at the Reverie? There's so many ways that this could turn. I mean, as soon as the King of Alabasta starts talking about like the Void Century and the ancient weapons and stuff, I'm sure it's going to have a big impact on the meeting. And also like, just like the presence of the Fishmen in general. And like, I mean, like literally Shirahoshi is an ancient weapon, and she is in Mary Jose, whatever. I mean, there's so many ways this thing could go down, but we do know that Dragon is for sure going to attack. He has all of his forces and they're ready to go. I just kind of wonder how Mosgard is going to have an impact on the whole event itself. Like between Mosgard and the Merfolk, I mean, there's a lot of potential to really change things like from the inside, rather than Dragon's way from changing it from the outside and attacking. So interestingly enough, now we have this thing between changing things from the outside and changing things from the inside. So we are left wondering what is going to happen when these two forces with the same goal meet each other. I think this is going to be one of the more significant things that is going to play out during the Reverie. And you know, there is a little bit of headcanon in there. This is just how I'm personally interpreting this whole episode and the significance in the episode that has been set up here. But anyway, onward to episode 887. So the beginning of this episode, interestingly enough, starts out with Big Mom giving a call to Kaido. Apparently, she's upset that Luffy crashed her party and messed up her street cred and got all that publicity. Now she's like, I have to, you know, come and take Luffy's head so I can get my street cred back. And like Kaido's like, no, I've got a bigger reason to get him. If you come here, I'm going to kill you. And then she's like, I'm not asking you permission, I'm just giving you a warning that I'm coming. And so apparently she told Kaido that he owes her, and Kaido's like, but that's a long time ago. And then Big Mom's like, no, this is a lifetime debt. So it kind of makes you wonder, what in the world did Big Mom do for Kaido? And she goes on to say to Kaido, let's be friends like we used to. And this is the first reveal we get to the deep relationship that they share. So the Navy intercepted the transmission, and like Barcelino is asking Akainu, he's like, hey, do you want me to go? Because they don't want like two Yonko meeting, especially not these two. And he says, it's not, pretty much in so many words, he's like, they have strong samurai. And then we get a transition into where there's a meeting, a dining rather, with vice captains. And then Gihon is telling Garp that Kaido and Big Mom are both going after Luffy, and he's like laughing, and he's saying, well, we can't do anything because the revelry is going on. All of our qualified personnel are guarding the royals. And then Tina's like, well, we probably should pay attention to this because Big Mom and Kaido are the reason why you're a Navy hero anyway. And then Trump, he kind of laughs, and he's like, oh, you're talking about rocks. I meant to say Hina, not Tina. But anyway, Garp goes on to say that before Roger, apparently it was the time of Big Mom and Kaido, but it was 40 years in the past. And there's a little something interesting there that I'm not going to share in this video, that I'm going to make another video about. But anyway, Hina goes on to say, even though they lost their captain, they continue to grow in power. This means that they were both a part of the same crew at one point, and it makes you wonder, like, is it the Rocks crew, or is that the name of an event? And I'm kind of leaning more on the side of event because of what Garp went on to say. So Garp went on to say, like, if they get back together, it would be a problem, but he looks kind of exciting. And he says, but things always defy our expectation. And then Garp kind of hints back to when the Paramount War was going on. He was like, a lot of unpredictable things happened then too. And the fact that he used the word too makes me think he's comparing it to the Rocks event that Big Mom and Kaido were involved in, was just as big, if not bigger, than the Paramount War. And the other vice captains are like, oh, Luffy got big, I can't believe that he got like that famous. And then Garp is laughing, and he's like, not big enough, which adds evidence to the fact that the Rocks incident was even bigger than the Paramount War. This also means that there was a pirate who did bigger things than Luffy, who has currently done more than any other pirate in his generation. So it makes you wonder, who the heck was Big Mom and Kaido's captain, and what was that era like? So as usual, as per the theme of One Piece endings, we are left with more questions than answers. Now, if anyone is curious on my thoughts regarding Shanks's meeting with the Gorosei at the end of One Piece, I have another video on my page where I explain that. I'll have it up in the end credits, but I do warn you, there are a bit of spoilers in there. If you watch that video, there's some manga spoilers in there, so before you watch that, just be mindful that it does contain spoilers. So leave us a comment and let us know what you think.
And don't forget to subscribe, nerds.